We are just now learning there is a press conference coming up, and we will learn more. Live pictures now. This is Woodbridge, Virginia. Authorities there have arrested a man they suspect of putting pipe bombs, planting them near U.S. Capitol complex buildings, particularly at the RNC headquarters. Now, this was 5 years ago, and so we've been following the story, and this is movement, finally, in that case. We have our David Spunt on this breaking news. David.
Well, Harris, this happened January 5th, 2021, the night before the attack on the U.S. Capitol, and two pipe bombs were placed outside both the RNC headquarters, Republican National Committee, and the DNC headquarters, the Democratic National Committee in Washington, D.C., both political parties in their headquarters targeted. The two bombs were placed between 7:30 and 8:30 that night. Again, this was January 5th, the night before the Capitol attack. The bombs did not detonate, but were viable and discovered the next day. Over the past 4 years, agents visited 1,200 homes, businesses, conducted more than 1,000 interviews, reviewed about 39,000 video files, Harris. They also went through more than 600 or so tips relating to this investigation. We reported just a little while ago, the man that is in custody, his name is Brian Cole Jr., in his early 30s, from Woodbridge, Virginia. That's where what we're being told, court-authorized activity is is taking place right now, I should say. He was picked up earlier this morning, taken into custody, in federal custody right now. We're expecting to hear from Attorney General Bondi, FBI Director Kash Patel, and U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro at some point later today. And I will note that the FBI did have a reward of $500,000, a $500,000 reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of the person behind this. So it's unclear if that may have played a role here. A lot of questions, though, still that we have as we await to hear from some of these leaders at the DOJ and FBI today.
Not a yes, sir, not a follower. Fit the box, fit the mold, have a seat for you. Pick a number. I was lightning before the thunder. Thunder, thunder. Lightning and the thunder.
So strange cold, guys. Wouldn't Klein, you're in charge of whether the colds go or not. Wouldn't we have better pipe bomber colds? Come on, guys, come on. In fact, I require that you get me an actual pipe bomber cold. We could have just used the one from this morning, frankly. No, ladies and gentlemen. No. Jerry, you've made probably 100,000 pipe bomber colds. We need to, redo that. The audience deserves better, frankly. Okay, who the hell is Brian Cole? And we await the press conference on the pipe bomber. That's what we are live for. We go live a little less than we used to. We used to just pretty much be live for 7 hours a day. But this is a big one, ladies and gentlemen. So what is happening right now? Let's go ahead and pop on over to a live shot of Brian Cole Jr.'s arrest location in Woodbridge, Virginia. This is Brian Cole Sr.'s home, live right now, with an FBI SWAT team, hazmat team, and full intel team on premises and on property. They've even deployed dogs to go after, whatever they might find here. Allegedly, a left-winger, some are calling an anarchist, Julie Kelly on our morning show, called him an Antifa member, living with his father, who would have been 25 years old at the time of planting the pipe bombs. This, of course, makes a lot of sense. Young, left-wing Antifa member. There's tons of them. They always live, by the way, in the most beautiful, wooded, suburban hellscapes, really. I mean, it looks like hell. He's growing up in $1 million house in Woodbridge, Virginia, at the end of a cul-de-sac. Such a fight the power, left-wing, radical. It's amazing, these people. You need to make sure that your children have purpose in life. Make sure that your children know struggle. Make sure that you are the one raising your children. Otherwise, they'll end up like this. This is what nihilism gets you. This is what a meaningless life gets you. This is what spending way too much time terminally online gets you, and what sending your kids to public schools gets you. So don't be like Brian Cole Sr. today, having to wake up to an FBI raid at your home for your degenerate kid. But we don't know. We don't know anything. Here's the house. People found it on Zillow. $670,000 is what the estimate is. Could be more. It's a nice home. 5 beds, 2 baths, 2,500 square foot, and in a beautiful neighborhood. And so this home has been raided by the feds, and we've been watching sort of a live feed all morning. It looks like they're wrapping up what was a court-ordered federal raid here. You can see the guys in the FBI jackets and the FBI cars still outside. In order to get a raid like this, in order to do it right in the middle of the day, I mean, listen, you got to have a judge. You've got to have demonstrable evidence. Of course, you have Fourth Amendment rights. Please cut away, Klein. Yeah. Of course, you have Fourth Amendment right. Thank you. This was footage from earlier. Everyone has their Fourth Amendment rights. Everyone has their right to privacy. A judge has got to look at the evidence and then rule that there is probable cause that Brian Cole was the pipe bomber. And so the judge has seen a lot more evidence than we've seen. However, at a 1 p.m., it is now 1:07 Eastern Standard Time, at a 1 p.m. news conference, so set to begin here momentarily, we are going to learn, hopefully, what the feds know about Brian Cole and his actions allegedly planting the pipe bomb. And I say allegedly because, you know what? Hell, man, I have no idea. Dudes, I don't know, right? I'm not going to believe anything just off the top. You're going to have to show me the demonstrable evidence. You're going to have to prove it. The trust us bro era of governing is over. The hard evidence, DNA, totally and completely demonstrable, is the era that we're living in right now. We've been lied to too much. And so I very much look forward to this press conference from not only the FBI, but the full DOJ. Pam Bondi is going to be there. The Attorney General, Deputy Director of the FBI. This is a big one. Look at the show of force here. Just something off the dome before we get into what we know about Brian Cole right now. This is the alleged pipe bomber. 30 years old, would have been 25 at the time of the planting of the pipe bomb. When you get raids like this, with this kind of federal force, that judge saw something that horrified him. Judges don't just sign off on raids like this. You can't just do this to people. You have to have probable cause beyond a shadow of a reasonable doubt in order to get a flex like this. Because, of course, this will destroy someone's life. This destroys everybody who lives, everybody who lives in that neighborhood, everybody who's known this family. And also, much like the Thomas Crooks case, what the hell? Guys, how is it that the parents don't know? How is it the parents don't know? How is it that this could all go on and be kept secret for 5 years in this leafy suburb, cul-de-sac, Virginia, and the parents have no idea that this is happening, that their kid did this? Who's also building bombs? Thomas Crooks. Thomas Crooks was building a bomb in his parents' bedroom, and he had all the material. They lived in this teeny little house. You could smell the material. He was getting all these chemicals in order to build a bomb. You could smell it. You could see it. It was sitting right there in his closet. Don't tell me his parents knew nothing. Something a lot darker going on here. Let's cover the news that we know right now. Let's cover everything that we know of right now. And then hopefully we'll pop on over. It is 10 minutes past the hour. We'll pop on over to this press conference, which we are very much looking forward to listening into what the feds have here that would get an order of this kind of magnitude to do a raid like this. It's like a full-on counterterrorism raid. And quite frankly, if the evidence proves out that this is in fact the perpetrator, then yeah, you have to charge him with terrorism. You have to charge. You have to give him. You have to lay the death sentence out. I'm in total favor of this because this is real terrorism. Planting a bunch of pipe bombs around where you know there's going to be a big political rally, that can't happen in America. That can't be something that we normalize. That is an obvious act of terror. Putting them at the headquarters of both of the parties, the main parties in this country, the RNC and the DNC, it's clearly terrorism. So I'm totally and completely in favor of throwing the book as hard as possible at the pipe bomber. It's always begged the question, if the pipe bombs were supposed to go off, and there's a huge debate about whether these were operable bombs or not, but if the pipe bombs were set to explode right when the MAGA rally was set to surround the Capitol, the permission slips, by the way, have been made very public. There was a license granted to the Stop the Steal rally to have a big rally at the Capitol. They had every right to be there. They were going to gather on the other side of the Capitol in front of the Supreme Court, in front of the U.S. Capitol building, right there on that street. You can see the documents. So presumably, the entire Capitol Hill would be surrounded by MAGA supporters. Do you realize how simple it was to blow up, for lack of a better term, this narrative in the first place? If this bomber was a MAGA bomber, as they say, as was the useful idiot talking point, the media, if this pipe bomber was the MAGA bomber, why would you be bombing your own side? Why would you be bombing your own people? Why would you bomb your own movement? These bombs were placed in a manner where they could have really hurt some of the MAGA movement because they were wandering around Capitol Hill at the time. And as we've demonstrated, they were just kind of laying around. They were just kind of rattling around down the sidewalk. You just kick it, right? Like a stick or a football. The pipe bombs were just placed out in the open for literally anyone to see, if you believe the official story, which we don't. Because you can see the kitchen timer on them goes to 60 minutes. So how are you placing a pipe bomb on a 60-minute timer that's supposed to explode 18 hours from now? That don't make no sense. No, of course it doesn't. So we need these questions answered, and we need them answered immediately. And hopefully we'll get those answers at now 15 minutes past the hour from the Attorney General, Director of the FBI, Deputy Directors, and so on. Maybe some of the people who are working these cases. But it never stood to reason that somebody who loved MAGA or loved the President of the United States would engage in this kind of violent behavior. One, because that's just not what we do as a movement. We're the movement that throws a rally, and then the rally location is cleaner after the rally's done. And then two, because you'd be bombing your own movement, you idiots. So as Julie Kelly has alleged, boys, I don't know how, if we have the clips or not yet. As Julie Kelly has alleged, this is something that's going to look probably far more like a left-wing Antifa member than an actual Trump supporter. So here we go. Producers saying that there is potentially a 2-minute warning on this. So let's read quickly. Oh, okay. Oh, really?
Yeah, they think it might wait till after the Trump thing.
Really? Better not. Better not, but I guess it is what it is. Okay, so that's... Oh, okay, so this is for President Trump live right now. Got it. All right, so the president is live right now. I guess producers, make sure that you're watching that just in case there's anything that that the president says on this. So obviously, that would obviously be interesting. Does the president talk about this at all? And let's go ahead and have that up, Klein. Yeah, let's go ahead and look. It has something. It has nothing to do. I guess we can go ahead and pop on over to the president here real quickly. It has nothing to do with the pipe bomber. but just show you that Donald Trump is live talking about a peace deal in the Congo. Great. Fine. I want peace. But what we want to hear about today is the pipe bomber. So please monitor and make sure that if the president talks about the pipe bomber, that we clip it and we'll get it to you, ladies and gentlemen. Who is Brian Cole? So what we are waiting for is the DOJ press conference on the pipe bomber. They're probably thankful for a little extra time to prepare for this, because a lot of people are going to be watching in. This has been a massive and surprising show of force, but one that has been sort of breadcrumbed out there. Dan Bongino, 8 months ago, saying that they were getting very close. Stay tuned. Kash Patel, 5 months ago, saying we're getting close. Stay tuned. Kash Patel, 2 weeks ago, saying we are getting close, very close. Stay tuned. We've had some breakthroughs, he said. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here we are with a name and an arrest. And what do we know? Here from the Daily Mail. Who is Brian Cole? Everything that we know about the January 6th riot pipe bomb suspect arrested by the FBI. I love how they have to write riot now instead of insurrection, because that's a legally charged term. And if you write that as an insurrection, you'll get sued. I think that's amazing. 5 years after a series of pipe bombs laid around Washington, D.C. on the eve of January 6th, the FBI has finally named a suspect in the case. Brian Cole, he's 30 years old, he's a Virginia resident, was identified in Thursday in a stunning breakthrough in the investigation. Sources told MS Now that Cole is believed to be linked to support for anarchist ideologies, read Antifa. ALX, can you please find Julie Kelly? Would it be Fox News? She was citing that a large corporate media company had said that he was an Antifa member. Let's go hunt that down. Where's that from? It's not from the Daily Mail, but let's keep reading here. Sources told MS Now that Cole's linked to anarchist ideologies, probably Antifa. Little known of Cole at the time, sources saying he's a resident of a quiet Virginia suburb of Woodbridge, lives in a $1 million house with daddy. Images circulated on social media showing heavy police presence descending on the suspect's home. We played that for you after he was arrested in the early hours on Thursday morning. It comes after weeks the FBI offering a $500,000 reward lead to the identity of the suspect. Authorities shared previously unreleased footage of the perp stalking the streets of Washington, D.C. before the infamous strikes. Riots. However, the arrest, reportedly not the result of a breakthrough investigation, came after the FBI reviewed existing evidence that it had in 2021 and 2022. Oh boy. That's where you get me, man. That all of this evidence was pre-existing at the FBI. That just means they didn't want to find him. That's all that means. And that they're embarrassed about this. Klein, I'm going to want to read that Ken Delanian post. Just make sure that gets sent into the chat, please. Great. Great. Because allegedly this story was broken by NBC News. Very interesting. Law enforcement sources said that Cole's arrest may cause embarrassment for the FBI because the suspect could have been arrested years ago. Investigators had pieced together the existing evidence, but instead they ignored it. Cole has been accused of laying explosive devices outside of the RNC and DNC. The arrest marks the first major breakthrough of the investigation. This sparked a wave of conspiracy theories. You can see here the beautiful home in Woodbridge, Virginia, that the little McMansion there where he was living. Classic left-winger. Oh, I live in hell. Oh, life is so bad for me. America must burn. They always live in neighborhoods like this. Nepo babies. In the surveillance footage from the plot, video shows the hooded suspect setting down a backpack on the South Capitol Street before putting on glasses, scanning the surroundings. The suspect then walked to the nearby DNC headquarters. The bomb was placed at 7:54 p.m. and then 8:16 at the RNC headquarters. The suspect wore a face mask, glasses, gray hooded sweatshirt, gloves, black and light gray Nike Air Max Speed Turf shoes with a yellow logo. This person clearly knew what they were doing because they left absolutely no trail, or did they? But it was really hard to see any type of identifying traits, not even skin color. They clearly were trying to run an op, had been coached how to not be detected. The explosive devices planted outside of the two buildings on Capitol Hill neighborhood were located the next day, just hours before the hordes of Donald Trump supporters descended on the Capitol. U.S. police agents from the FBI and Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms were first called to the scene. About 30 minutes later, the agents and bomb technicians were still investigating the RNC. A similar explosive device found at DNC headquarters. The bombs were rendered safe. No one was hurt. You can see here a little map of sort of the walking path, which makes absolutely no sense. As we have detailed many times before, this person clearly wasn't quite sure what the hell they were doing. They were obviously taking orders from someone because they were constantly on the phone. And they were sort of meandering in front of multiple cameras in one of the most highly monitored areas in the world. Julie Kelly, of course, says that she doesn't think that this is the individual. She's not convinced that this is the individual that actually planted the bombs. Maybe this person was a plant. I guess we'll find out. These are the kind of things that you find out in court cases like this. But here we are. If you were really going to plant a bomb and you had a bomb in your backpack, would you really take this kind of circuitous, meandering, roundabout, wandering, sitting on your cell phone, making phone calls? Who the hell were they making phone calls to? No one's ever explained that. Allegedly, the phone data was all corrupted. That is something that we really need to have answered. It probably was the phone data, frankly, that was able to nab the suspect in the first place. That's the phone data is going to be like a fingerprint. Even if you have a burner phone, the carriers are going to be able to track you unless you smash and destroy the phone. But nonetheless, they'll have your voice, they'll have your imprint. Your voice is something that cannot be modulated on these devices. And this is how they get you. I don't know, man. I don't know. It sure seems very suspicious to me. So I'm very interested in this one. Let's continue to read. Officials said that the homemade bombs were constructed out of threaded galvanized pipes, kitchen timers, and a homemade black powder. Kitchen timers that only go to 60 minutes, of course. The pipe bombs plot spawned numerous conspiracy theories, no such thing, as the case remained unsolved for years, including last month, as conservative social media commentators falsely claimed the FBI had identified a former Capitol police officer as the suspect. According to the FBI, they had actually interviewed this person of interest and had cleared her. She was a Capitol police officer. This was the Blaze report from last month. And so what does that say? Well, again, we look forward to the Department of Justice press conference that now we're quite sure is going to actually happen after President Trump is wrapped with his peace deal here. That looks like it might be happening actually quite soon. You can see here the president will be signing some peace agreement with the Congo. Obviously, as somebody who's been in a lot of these things, there's a announcement every 10 seconds, and the administration works very hard to make sure that the announcement live feeds are not stepping on each other. So that's what's going to happen here. So there's these windows where they block out their announcements, much like programming blocks. So that is what I believe is actually happening here. In particular, FBI Director Dan Bongino has often spoke of his desire to solve the case, including previously speculating that it may have been an inside job. Today is Dan Bongino's birthday. Is this a birthday gift that the FBI is giving him? It's a good question. The hunt for the suspect is one of the largest in FBI history. Investigators have struggled for years to piece together the evidence on the chaotic aftermath of the January 6th riots. Klein, I just want the full Julie Kelly interview to play. That's what I want.
The whole thing.
Yeah. Guys, that's what we're gonna do because we're not sure how long this holding pattern is, and that was absolutely the best interview from this morning. So, team, just get me that. This was included in a subpoena in a box store retailers for credit card data to find customers who bought specific types of battery connectors used to manufacture the bombs. Agents tracked down purchasers and battery connectors. Obviously, these are not like things that are. You can't just go, and as I always say, as a disclaimer, don't do this. Don't Google how to make a pipe bomb. Don't do that. Do not do that. When you do that, trust me, your name, your IP address, the computer that you're on gets immediately flagged. And these are the kind of things that I got to tell you, frankly, like, I don't mind because I don't want terrorists in my country. I don't want people to have this knowledge. The knowledge does exist out there. There are plenty of terrorist entities. But the moment that, like some dumbass kid, 25 years old, living in his dad's basement, doesn't just intrinsically know how to make, a bomb like this, wouldn't even be able to, there's a big argument as to whether they're operable bombs. According to all available evidence, there was enough black powder inside of these bombs for them to work. At the very least, someone was helping him, right? Like at the very least, someone was helping Thomas Crooks. Thomas Crooks was searching for how to make a bomb. Why were these people not flagged by the FBI? What's going to happen at this press conference, I'm almost positive, is they're going to say, we knew this guy. What's going to happen at this press conference, I can almost guarantee it, is they're going to say this guy was on our radar. Yeah. All right. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Ken Delanian, he's one of these like Fed reporters. He's like a deep state, like big time deep stater, but he's getting a lot of play this morning because he was one of the first to break this story here from 8:30 a.m. this morning. Ken Delanian, in a stunning break in the FBI's most high-profile unsolved cases, agents arrested a suspect on Thursday morning who investigators believe placed the pipe bombs outside of the RNC and DNC. The Capitol riot. 4 people with knowledge of the development told MS Now. The suspect had been charged with placing the bombs, which did not detonate. The allegations, if proven, would end the long-standing mystery that sparked multitude theories. I will not use the term conspiracy theory because there's no such thing. Before a mob of pro-Trump supporters stormed the Capitol building. See how this dude's deep state. See how he frames these kind of things. Before a mob of pro-Trump supporters stormed the Capitol building, aiming to stop Joe Biden from being installed as president. I think that's funny how he says installed as president. Thanks, Ken. Wow, what a nice thing for you to say. Well done, Ken. Wait, hold on. Maybe I've been too hard on you. I was not familiar with your game. You're right. Joe Biden was installed as president. Authorities have not yet determined a motive, law enforcement officials said. The suspect has been linked in a statement to anarchist ideology. 2 people briefed on the arrest. Judge Boasberg has ordered the suspect be released. All right, enough. Okay, gallows humor there. Where is that, ALX? Where is our Antifa ties? Where is that exactly? Is there any? This is what Julie Kelly. I'll point you to what Julie Kelly had said earlier on the morning show. I guess let's play that clip where she talked about Antifa ties. ALX is saying that he cannot find anything. Julie Kelly said, I know this because this is what corporate media reporters have been saying. I'm telling you, obviously this is breaking news. I think she misread anarchist as Antifa. Well, as we have learned, the motive here is going to matter. And also if it's being covered up by the feds, going to matter even more. So I I guess we'll see. But I don't need to play a 7-second clip. No, I don't need to play a 7-second clip. We don't need that. We need to get the full interview going. Do we have it? Okay. Okay. So ALX, the great ALX, is saying that he cannot find any type of corroborating evidence that this is a left-winger anarchist, Antifa. Is there really any difference? What's this? Okay, here we go. Washington Post reporting Cole's extremist political views. As I've already said on interview this morning, it appears that Ray buried the pipe bomb investigation in early 2001, discovering the hoodie individual was not MAGA, but was Antifa. This would not have only decimated the developing J6 insurrection narrative, but completely contradicted every early instance that said that he was a MAGA bomber. Huge scandal if true. Well, team, what is that Washington Post reporting? Let's get it up and let's read it. I'm sure we can find it. Let's freaking go. Wild times. Okay, so what is it exactly? There it is. Okay. Very surprising. Oh no. Here we go. Here we go. FBI arrests Virginia man in January 6 pipe bomb case. Okay, so the Washington Post up on this case. Let's talk through what they got. Federal officials, Thursday, Virginia man suspected of planting a pipe bomb, Democrat National Republican Committee, 3 people familiar with the matter. The arrest could bring closure to a mystery that vexed law enforcement, despite interviews, more than 1,000 people, video footage showing a person sitting on a bench, removing what appears to be a pipe bomb from a bag. Officials have struggled to break the investigation. Suspect is Brian Cole, who resides in Northern Virginia, according to 2 law enforcement officials who spoke on the matter. This is an ongoing investigation. Law enforcement officials are investigating a motive, but 2 people familiar with the matter described Cole as an extremist in his political beliefs. Well, what does that mean? Excuse me. As you know, and I apologize, I hate coughing on I can't help it. I am recovering from the flu that put me down bad for the last 2 weeks. We've been struggling through this, so I appreciate you. God bless you, and I thank you. We should take questions from the chat, too, while we wait. How about we prepare to do that, Klein? ALX saying this, highlighting this section. The lack of arrests had spurred baseless claims among Republicans, including Donald Trump, with many suggesting that the FBI did not want to solve the case because a member of an anti-fascist group, not a Trump supporter, planted the bombs. Some also suggest that the FBI was involved in planting the pipe bombs. That would be me. Say my name, Washington Post. Okay. But what does that mean? Does that mean that they are or are not? That doesn't seem to conclude one way or the other. This is why this incoming press conference is so critical. The FBI said that the bombs were capable of injuring people, and had they detonated, and their discovery apparently diverted law enforcement attention from the U.S. Capitol mob breached on January 6th. Vice President-elect Kamala Harris was in the Democratic National Committee offices at the time. Her Secret Service detail evacuated her from the premises when the bombs were discovered. With no explanation, of course. Nobody's ever explained why it was the case. So what was that exactly? Why was Kamala Harris driven right past the bombs? Obviously, this line from the Washington Post is critical. The Washington Post here is even skeptical, saying that it seems like it was part of an op to pull resources away from the U.S. Capitol, as Stephen Sun confirmed on our show, and then to allow bad actors to breach it, bad actors who we know were Antifa and BLM. Okay. And then nobody ever explained why Kamala Harris was driven right by one of the operable pipe bombs. There's a big debate on that as to whether they were actually operable. I hope that is a question that is asked at this press conference. We got Danny Dierbina, who lives in Washington, D.C. Danny, these are the kind of things that I want you to go to. Danny is trying to work on his White House, getting his White House press credentials. I want Danny to go so that he can ask questions in moments like this. This is what I want. Danny, you should be there, and we should be able to feed you questions. Danny lives in D.C. I fled D.C. after January 6th because frankly of evil like this. I couldn't tolerate being in the city anymore. It was so dark. It was so evil. It was so down bad. I'm telling you, my wife saw literal demons prowling the streets. Danny, how fast can you get to the DOJ, Danny? how quickly can you get to the DOJ, Danny? Come on, Danny, go. All right, we'll take your questions here in just a moment as we await. President Trump looks like they're wrapping up relatively soon, if not actually right now. Here they are. I mean, why don't we pop on over? Here they are applauding, and they're going to sign a little peace agreement. And there's another peace deal in the notch of the belt for President Trump. Let's go ahead and just listen in here real fast.
Could you come up, please? Do you mind? Please. They represent so many and so well, so I just want to thank you very much. Good.
Oh, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Switching over. Here's the live. This is the live. You see Dan Bongino, Cash Patel, Pam Bondi there.
Good afternoon.
Along with other law enforcement.
Good afternoon.
Here we go.
As you all know now, early this morning, Brian Cole Jr. was arrested and charged with placing the pipe bombs at the RNC and the DNC on January 5th, 2021. He has been charged with violating 18 U.S.C. 844, which is use of an explosive device. This investigation is ongoing. As we speak, search warrants are being executed, and there could be more charges to come. I'm going to let our U.S. attorney discuss that shortly. This was the work of multiple agencies working together. This morning's operation was carried out safely and successfully. We know that there are so many issues when you're issuing search warrants. Dangerous things can happen, and this was carried out safely and securely thanks to all of the people standing around me. They have worked tirelessly on this. Today's arrest happened because the Trump administration has made this case a priority. The total lack of movement on this case in our nation's capital undermined the public trust of our enforcement agencies. This cold case languished for 4 years until Director Patel and Deputy Director Bongino came to the FBI. The FBI, along with U.S. Attorney Pirro and all of our prosecutors, have worked tirelessly for months, sifting through evidence that had been sitting at the FBI with the Biden administration for 4 long years. Let me be clear, there was no new tip, there was no new witness, just good, diligent police work and prosecutorial work, working as a team along with ATF, Capitol Police, Metropolitan Police Department, and of course, the FBI. We are working every day to restore the public's trust. We hope that today is a significant step towards that progress. We'll share more information when we can and when it unfolds. I cannot stress enough how hard Director Patel and Deputy Director Bongino have worked for months to make our nation's capital safer and to make our country safer. I'd like to introduce now Director Patel.
Thank you, General.
Here we go.
When you attack American citizens, when you attack our institutions of legislation, when you attack our nation's capital, you attack the very being of our way of life. And this FBI and this Department of Justice stand here to tell you that we will always refute it and combat it. We will provide the safest country the nation has ever seen under President Trump's leadership here. And that's what we did here today with great resolve on a case of massive public importance, as it should be. An individual who is now alleged to have placed multiple explosive devices to blow up multiple people and multiple officials, innocent civilians, is now arrested thanks to the brave men and women of the FBI and the interagency. I want to take a moment to thank the Metropolitan Police Department, the United States Capitol Police, our brave prosecutors, the Department of Justice, and our leader, Attorney General Pam Bondi, and U.S. Attorney Janine Pirro, whose relentless work on this case made this possible. As the Attorney General said, we did not discover any new information. What we did, an investigation spearheaded by the Deputy Director and the ADIC of our Washington field office, brought in a new team of investigators and experts, re-examined every piece of evidence, sifted through all the data, something that the prior administration refused and failed to do. As a result of that, we generated numerous investigative leads, executed multiple legal process with our U.S. attorney partners, and came to this conclusion today. And that is why we were able to safely secure this individual into custody. Remember, we are dealing with an individual who is alleged to have made bombs. We cannot do this sort of takedown in haste because it endangers the lives of law enforcement. And this FBI will never allow the lives of law enforcement and our prosecutors to be put in jeopardy. This execution was flawless in terms of teamwork, resilience, and just a good old-fashioned way of police getting the job done. When you let good cops be cops, this is what happens. I'm eternally grateful to the team behind me, to the leadership at the FBI who made this possible. But I do want to highlight, when I introduced the deputy, he made this case and so many others, including Summer Heat, his priority to come in here and solve it for the American people. And today, I'm proud to stand here before you and say, we solved it. He will have his day in court. The American public and the world will learn even more information through the legal process, as we have committed under this Attorney General. We are the most transparent law enforcement operation in U.S. history, but we are also going to make sure accountability is delivered to its fullest extent. And that happens in the courts of law with our U.S. attorneys and our prosecutors. So we will divulge information when it is prudent and constitutionally permissible, while upholding the safeguards of this case to make sure that the people that this individual intended to victimize get the accountability they deserve, and most importantly, to deliver on President Trump's promise to secure our nation's capital and the rest of the cities in this country, to make sure that Americans are allowed to go out free and securely in their neighborhoods, and that people around the world are allowed to visit our nation's capital. And they now have that trust, thanks to the leadership of the FBI, the Washington field office. And I'm honored now to introduce to you Deputy Director Bongino, who spearheaded this investigation.
Thank you all for being here for this critical investigation we've been working on for a very long time. We deeply appreciate it. Thank you for the kind words, Attorney General and Director. I appreciate it. Folks, this is what it's like when you work for a president who tells you to go get the bad guys and stop focusing on other extraneous things not related to law enforcement. This is what happens. We had a great team. I know it's said a lot in this business. It was a team effort. It becomes cliche, but cliches are useful for a reason because they matter. And this was a team effort. The director and the attorney general emphasized that it was not a new public tip this came from. This was our internal work at the FBI. And I want to just really express my sincere gratitude to this attorney general and this president for allowing us the latitude. I spoke with Ms. Bondi very early when we, maybe day 2, and I said, we're going to get this guy. And she said, yes, you are. And we did. I want to also thank, he's not here, but Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, who we deal with often as well, who could not have been more supportive. Whatever process we need, Judge Janine, Todd, and Attorney General Bondi, they were there. All you had to do, they were a phone call away. And their team was amazing. We actually never had to make that phone call because they were always responsive. Thank you, Judge, as well. You were amazing. Folks, you're not going to walk into our capital city, put down 2 explosive devices, and walk off in the sunset. Not going to happen. We were going to track this person to the end of the earth. There was no way he was getting away. Well, we didn't have to track him to the end of the earth. It wound up in Woodbridge, Virginia. I want to thank the team. They were amazing. They never let this go. Again, Attorney General Bondi, for your incredible support. Director Patel, Judge, I know they're giving me a lot of unnecessary credit, but make no mistake, they were intimately involved in this and were there for all of those supportive mechanisms. And I deeply appreciate it. The man whose team did the work is the Assistant Director in charge of our Washington field office, Darren Cox. Darren's got some comments, and Darren has some more details on the case he can provide. So thank you all for coming. We appreciate it.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Darren Cox. I'm the Assistant Director in charge of the Washington field office. Today's arrest of the alleged DC pipe bomber is a momentous day for the American public, for the FBI, for our Joint Terrorism Task Force, or the JTTF, and our partners, the U.S. Capitol Police, Metropolitan Police Department, and ATF. We've also had a large number of other federal, state, and local departments that have worked on this investigation. And last but not least, the U.S. Attorney's Office. We all worked hand in hand to solve this investigation. This has been a long week in D.C. After the terrorist attack last week, the grit and determination of the FBI and our law enforcement partners is an example to the American public of what cooperation, partnership, and selfless service can accomplish. The amount of effort the FBI and our partners devoted to identifying the pipe bomber cannot be overstated. It is the resolve and determination of our investigators that ultimately led to the identification and the arrest of this suspect. We all know pipe bombs are dangerous, not because of the potential loss of life, damage to property, or injury that they can cause, but also because they are tools that terrorize our community. Fortunately, these bombs did not explode, although they certainly could have. But make no mistake, the alleged pipe bomber did terrorize our community. Today's actions underscore the long memory and the long reach of the FBI and our partners. I know some people had given up on finding the perpetrator, but not the FBI and not our partners. We do not forget, we do not give up, and we do not relent. Though it had been nearly 5 years, our team continued to churn through massive amounts of data and tips that we used to identify this suspect. I want to thank Director Patel and Deputy Director Bongino for their leadership and for providing us the resources and the personnel to reevaluate all of the data that we had. We dove into more than 3 million lines of data to come up with this suspect. Director Patel, Deputy Director Bongino, thank you for your support. Thank you for your passion. And thank you for your investment in this investigation. From me, on behalf of the investigators, the Washington field office, and all of our partners, thank you. I'd also like to thank Judge Pirro. Judge, your team and you are absolutely amazing. You're the type of prosecutors and U.S. attorney that all of the investigators across the country want to work with. They're hard-nosed and they're aggressive. And thank you for that. I'd also like to thank the American public for providing tips and leads, not just on this case, but every day on cases across the country that are being solved by law enforcement. And finally, I want to commend all of the members of the Washington field office, and most specifically, the investigative team. Their diligence and persistence led to this arrest today, and they are absolutely, totally dedicated not only to this case, but every case they work. So thank you, Washington field office. Last, I will say our work is not done. The FBI will continue to pursue every lead and use every resource that we have to ensure that the DC pipe bomber is brought to justice. Thank you.
You keep hearing the words partnership and team, and that's what we are. And we could not do this without our U.S. Attorney, Jeanine Pirro. Jeanine, from day one, has worked tirelessly for our country and for our nation's capital. It's my honor to introduce my friend, U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro.
Thank you very much, Attorney General. And you have been listening to a lot of thank yous and a lot of gratitude. The reason that we're thanking each other to the extent that we are today is because we have seen in this case an incredible collaboration around the clock, in the middle of the night. It doesn't matter. We call each other, we make contact. They need a warrant, they need something. Someone wants legal advice. These are the men and women who never give it up. You hear about government employees, but I don't know if you really realize what it is that they do. They are incredible. And this case is big. 4 years, 10 months, and 28 days ago, an individual placed a bomb in the vicinity of both the RNC and the DNC. And for that amount of time, that individual evaded accountability. Today, as a result of the cumulative efforts of the men and women in the FBI and the police department and the Department of Justice, we are finally able to make an arrest of an individual by the name of Brian Cole. As the Attorney General has indicated, he is arrested for transporting an explosive device in interstate commerce, as well as the attempted malicious destruction by means of explosive materials. You know, folks, this case involved millions of pieces of data. And it is a huge win because it was like finding a needle in a haystack. So much of this evidence was very specific, but a lot of it was also very general. For example, there were 233,000 black end caps of the type that were used in this case. I want you to think about the fact that the FBI had to go through the sale of every one of them to try to find commonality with an individual, along with the purchase of the pipe itself, the cap ends, the wires, the steel, and the 9-volt batteries. Every one of those had to be mined and remined to the point where we were able to then connect. And make no mistake, it was this administration, it was this president who made the decision that we were going to use all of our efforts to get it done, and get it done they did. Finally, let me say this. Today begins the formal process of accountability, where this defendant will begin his journey through the criminal justice system. And I pledge to you that the United States Attorney's Office will take this case across the finish line. Again, thank you to the incredible work of the FBI, to the Attorney General, and to our local partners as well. This is a job that I think was well done.
Thank you. President Trump's directive to all of us was to not only make America safe again, but DC, and to make it safe and beautiful. We could not have done that without our partnership with Mayor Bowser and Chief Smith. It is my honor to introduce Metropolitan Police Department Chief Smith.
Good afternoon, and thank you, everyone. I am Chief Pamela Smith, Chief of Police of the Metropolitan Police Department. Thank you, Attorney General Bondi, U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro, and FBI Director Patel for having me here today. For nearly 5 years, the agencies standing here today have worked together under the leadership of the FBI to locate our suspect who is responsible for the 2 pipe bombs that were placed around our city. MPD members assigned to the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force have supported this case from the beginning. That supports include looking, reviewing, and going through countless, probably thousands of hours of CCTV footage from around the DNC and RNC headquarters, and they followed up on hundreds and thousands of leads from members of our communities. What I will say today is that Washingtonians can rest easier today, knowing that the suspect responsible for this act is now in custody. This morning's arrest is yet another reminder that committing any act with the intention of harming the residents and visitors of the District of Columbia will result in your arrest. The men and women of the Metropolitan Police Department, the FBI, the ATF, the U.S. Capitol Police, and certainly the prosecutors at our U.S. Attorney's Office will go to the furthest length. I heard somebody say to the end of the earth, but thank God we didn't have to go to the end of the earth today, that we were able to bring this subject into custody. I want to commend the men and women of the FBI and the members of the Metropolitan Police Department and all of the agencies who are standing behind me today on a job well done. I will turn it over now to Attorney General Bondi.
We're going to take some questions. Just remember, as I said in the beginning, this is ongoing. It's very active. The search warrants are still being executed. Many charges potentially to come. So just keep that in mind when asking your questions.
Jake, Fox News. So you said it had been nearly 5 years. We all know that. And that you said there have been no new evidence. So can you say anything about the evidence that actually did lead to this arrest? And then secondarily, you're talking about additional charges possibly. Can you say what those you might be considering, or terrorism charges, or what?
We can't discuss new charges, of course, yet, ongoing. But what I will say is this is why this was so incredibly important, more than any other case, is this is in our nation's capital where this happened. And now, thanks to the FBI, we know that this defendant was living just miles away from here in Virginia. So as to the evidence in the case, I'm going to let Director Patel take that, but it's still very active and very ongoing.
Thank you, General. And as I stated earlier, and as the General has already reiterated, our job is to provide full accountability in the court of law with Judge Pirro's team. And in order to do that, we have to preserve the chain of custody and evidentiary value. What I will say generally is that when you go through 3 million lines of information, y'all can think about the amount of cell phone data that has to be ingested and triangulated and dumped and received. You also have to think of just sheer human ingenuity. We brought in a team of experts who are the best at what they do in their specific fields to reevaluate that evidence, to dive back in, and to not come back with a no for an answer until they had found the suspect. And when you develop evidence, you get a search warrant. And when you get a search warrant, you get an address. And when you get an address, you hit the house. And that's what we did.
Sadie, Wall Street Journal.
Hi there. So what can you tell us about this person's motivations and whether they were driven by politics or for any other reason why?
Right now, it's ongoing. Again, we just executed the search warrant early this morning. It's ongoing, but America's safer, DC's safer because he's in custody.
Mary Margaret, Daily Wire.
Thank you so much. So any theory on why Kamala Harris has never mentioned coming within 20 feet of being assassinated, and any news on why her Secret Service team took so long to find this bomb at the DNC?
No, but what I will tell you is that evidence has been sitting there collecting dust. This wasn't a new tip. It wasn't some new evidence. It was the hard work of President Trump's administration, Deputy Director Bongino and Director Patel. I watched them from day one come in here and say, we are going to solve this crime. And they did, working hand in hand with U.S. Attorney Pirro and all of our great attorneys.
Pierre, ABC.
General Bondi, Director Patel, or Deputy Director Bongino, can you describe, was there a particular moment where the evidence is coming in and it's starting to look like progress is being made? What was the moment that you knew that you were on the road to solving the case?
Dan, you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. I was smiling at you because I certainly remember the moment. Darren remembers it too. He said, "Are you sitting down?" Called me on the phone. I said, "Oh boy, why? Is this bad news?" And he said, "I think we got him." What exactly that tip was, we're going to have to pass on that for right now while we're still, obviously we're in the prologue of a long book. This is just the beginning. This is not the end of the investigation, as you all well know, having reported on these for a long time. There's interviews to be conducted. The search warrant processing scene is not even done. So we're at the early stages. So that's the only reason I hesitate to tell you what the exact tip was. But yes, that was absolutely the moment. And it was due to the diligent and incredible work of a team in the Washington field office that came in and just scoured through this over and over and over and over again.
In general, was it forensic? Was it a phone call? Was it something about a vehicle? Just in
I'd
general
rather,
terms?
we'll just leave it generally forensic evidence. Yeah, it's fair enough to say. Excuse me?
How long ago that was?
I'd rather not say because of the ongoing interview process and I don't want to. Yeah.
I just want to add something to tell you how thorough this team was. That moment that was kind of like the aha moment, that wasn't the end. This team continued to work and work and work to get every bit of evidence that we could get. We didn't stop at that moment. And that's a testament to the fact that the team wanted every possible piece of evidence that they could gather.
One more?
One more, Kelly O'Donnell and Mr.
Thank you so much. Have you recovered the notable sneakers? Have you done surveillance of this suspect from that aha moment to when you exercised the search warrants today? And obviously this happened on January 5th into January 6th. How should the public look at this case separate from all of the cases related to what transpired on January 6th and the president's subsequent pardons?
I'm going to let Director Patel take the evidence part. We have to be careful again. You've asked very good investigative questions, but this is ongoing, very active. But America should feel safer today. We say a pipe bomb. These are bombs. These were live, active bombs that were placed in Washington, D.C. Director.
Thank you. This shows you how much detail you and the American public have paid attention to this case. Of course, we analyzed everything that you're seeing on this poster board and information that you will see through the formal charging process and court process. But we want to let that evidence speak for itself because, again, we do not want to disrupt the accountability that we owe the American public. Yes, you heard about the cell phone tower data. Yes, you heard about, of course, we surveil individuals who we think we're going to blow up American citizens. But how and when we do it and why we do it is not something we're ever going to reveal unless the Department of Justice deems it fit at trial. So we appreciate your attention to detail and your hardcore investigative work. But you can just imagine some of those same skills were being utilized by this FBI, this Department of Justice, our partners, the ATF, and everybody across the board. And this is an interagency win for the American people.
Radar before.
Thank you all. And one more thing, this is the best birthday present I think Deputy Director Bongino could ask for today. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas. Thank you.
So texting with a number of regular guests on our program who are experts on this. So very light on details when it comes to how they did this, why they did this, what led to the breakthroughs. I'm not here to claim to be a legal expert. I've never worked in law enforcement. I don't have an FBI badge. But what I was hoping to get is something that we've seen before in high-profile cases, which are the feds saying, here is the timeline of evidence that led us to this suspect. Here is, for public consumption, the full case. Because it is important for us to use our bully pulpit in order to present to the American public who's paying for all of this, who are the victims of all of this, why we're doing this. You know, why are we depriving this individual of their freedom? Why are we using all these resources to do a massive federal raid? What was covered up for the last couple of years? What are you protecting? Christopher Wray? Joe Biden's FBI? That covered up the Hunter Biden laptop and Epstein and everything else? I mean, like, why would you protect those people? You're here to burn all that down. I'm happy with the result, but as we have said on this show time and time again, the whole, like, trust us, bro, we're good, move along. That doesn't work anymore. So I am pleased that we have seen action on this case. Clearly, if they got the wrong guy or the wrong person, this is going to be utterly humiliating. I don't think that's the case here. I'm not alleging that there's any type of cover up, except for I would have wanted, in this circumstance, so much more meat on the bone. What was this exactly? Well, it's all the information we already knew. Here's a dude, here's his name, we arrested him. And they're they're bad. Fine. Agreed. But that's something that we've known, well, for years now, actually, that the pipe bomber was bad. And now what we need to know is what you have done with all the federal resources in order to find this pipe bomber and why the arrest happened today. You need to tell us why. What was it that led to the breakthrough? They were even asked a direct question about that. They were asked a direct question about Kamala Harris. And so I guess that my question for you is, like, we got more information from our interviews this morning on the live show, and I'm not trying to be a hater here. I'm just trying to be good trouble and push and flex and create friction where there deserves to be friction. We need to hear, like, okay, Brian Cole, this individual at this time, at this moment, left this DNA at this location. It had a positive hit on our database. This DNA was ignored. Brian Cole is in custody because of A, B, C, D, C, through to Z. Preponderance of evidence we presented to you here. There's even further evidence that will be presented in court. This shows beyond a reasonable doubt why we have used all of our federal resources and dogs to raid Brian Cole in his house this morning, his dad's house. And this is clearly a justified raid because, well, now you can see beyond a shadow of doubt that we have found the actual pipe bomber, because why would Brian Cole's DNA be all over the crime scene or all over this thing or all over the bomb? Why would his fingerprints be on the bomb? Whatever was the thing, that they found. We got his sneakers. His sneakers had his dirty, filthy, sweaty gym socks in them, and Brian Cole's DNA is all over them. Brian Cole works out at this gym. We were able to surveil him in there, blah, blah, blah. Brian Cole's dad came through and said, this was I can't account for my son that night, and whatever. You need to give us that. We need to have that information. We need it, So I don't know what else to say other than we want more. There needs to be more meat on the bone. The era of trust us, bro, we're good, move along, is not here anymore. Doesn't it? That died with like the greatest generation. Okay. Now we need show us your work. And we didn't see the work. We saw a lot of clapping on the back, a lot of congratulations, but we didn't see the work. I want to see the work. I'm a fan of a lot of people in this administration. I am a major proponent of this administration. I want further transparency on this. I want further transparency on Charlie Kirk and his murder. I want further transparency on Epstein. I want further transparency on Thomas Matthew Crooks, who put a bullet in Trump's head. And I'm not going to sit here and tuck my tail on any of those. We need to see the full picture. We need to see every single piece, every scintilla of evidence. And until that happens, we're not going to stop yapping about it. John Solomon, this morning, says that the case was cracked 6 weeks ago because Dan Bongino flipped the entire table, literally flipped tables and changed agents and said, here we go. We're going to do it totally differently. We're going to put a brand new team on it, scour all of the available evidence. We're going to get a hit. And they did. Nobody's better when it comes to sourcing than John Solomon in Washington, D.C. when it comes to sourcing inside of the DOJ, FBI. He's just the best. And so here's what John Solomon had to tell Steve Bannon.
mentioned, I think it was just before Thanksgiving on your show, I thought there would be an arrest this week. They were zeroing in on a gentleman whom they arrested this morning in Northern Virginia. And the way this case was cracked was about a month or 6 weeks ago. Bongino, who was the lead on it, and Patel decided to take the old agents off the case and put a new team on it. Now, there was a little resistance, as there always is in the FBI, to any form of change. But the new team came in. They applied some new ideas, some new technologies, and some of the evidence that was sitting right in front of them with fresh eyes was followed, and it was able to be led to this gentleman who they arrested a little bit ago. We don't know much about his ideology or his intentions or his motives yet. And one of the things that FBI officials stressed with me this morning is that this is really the beginning. The arrest is the beginning of trying to understand how this operation was conducted, who's behind it, whether there are more conspirators or whether this is a lone wolf. Still all of that to be determined, but a really extraordinary effort. Almost 5 years later, with a fresh set of eyes and a different approach, the FBI that couldn't solve the case for 4.5 years solves it. Very much like the way the Charlie Kirk investigation occurred in the first few hours. There were a lot of FBI agents in old guard that didn't want to put the suspect's photo out, but Kash Patel and Bongino insisted that was going to be key to getting the father to flip. And they put the photo out, the father flips, and of course you get that arrest as we see. What you're seeing is a different mentality in the FBI, and that plays out in two different ways. First, you see successes that we haven't seen in a while, lots of arrests, cases solved that had not been solved for a long time, other cases which could have gone on for months being solved in 33 hours like Charlie Kirk's assassin. The second part is it results in a lot of whining from FBI people who think they know what's better. And you see that even in the Miranda Devine story earlier this week. You've got these grousers and grouchers because the truth of the matter is Donald Trump ordered Patel and Bongino to break glass at the FBI. They broke glass. And now the FBI is doing things differently. They're succeeding, but there are people who want to focus on the whining and crying, not actually the success of what the FBI has been doing. The way they solved this case was fresh thinking.
Here's what kind of strange credulity. In 5.5 years, and Dan comes in with Kash, but Dan finally gets tired of it, puts on a new team. Yep. And I understand it's a fresh set of eyes, a different perspective, but it doesn't strain credulity to think that the original FBI team was really, and this is the problem with all of J6. Were they part of the problem? Because, to say that Bongino and these guys came in and in 6 weeks cracked the case is fantastic. But you sit there and go, particularly you see a lot of these former whistleblowers of people trashing Kash every day. Yeah. Is the building just still adamantly opposed to Kash, Bongino, and President Trump?
Oh, fewer and fewer people are opposed. There are even people that were opposed at the beginning, like this guy's just a talking head. He's not an FBI agent. And then you start solving cases, and people are like, oh, damn, hey, this is working. We're getting bad guys off the street. So there are 2 or 3 dynamics going on in the Bureau. The first is there are people that are still the deep state, and as Kash Patel and Dan Bongino find them, they throw them out, or they twist them in a way that they're required to show us what the deep state did the last 6 or 8 years that we didn't know about. Early on, there was some question, why was Kash Patel keeping certain people behind? Because those people wanted to keep their pension, and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino wanted to know what really went on, and they squeezed those people to find out what the dirty secrets were that existed from the Wray and Comey era, and that's how they found the burn bags, and they found all that stuff. So you have resistance. That resistance is growing less. The resistors now move to the outside. This report that, I think Miranda writes in the New York Post, it's an anonymous whistleblower report. It's kind of weird to have a study that doesn't have any names to it. But a lot of those people are gone, and they're grousing from the outside. Inside the building, the people that remain, there are new people coming in that are showing a new wave. Success is breeding trust. And all of a sudden, you got an FBI that's doing things. And there's a lot of unique things going on inside the FBI. It's remarkable to think that we've watched the Ukraine and Russia war take place, and all of these small drones creating incredible lethality, and have an FBI in America that until just a few months ago didn't have a counter drone program. Just think about that. Now there's a counter drone program. That's a major change. Agents who realized what.
Well, that was an abrupt stop, but whatever. Okay, you see what John Solomon is saying there. John Solomon is saying that Dan Bongino The TLDR there is that Dan Bongino changed everything and was able to get a hit, and then they were able to get an arrest, and that's something that we already know. And it's good. Again, we're big fans of John Solomon. But even Steve Bannon is there saying it strains credulity, meaning it's hard to believe that such a simple solution, like let's just get some fresh eyes on this case, would change everything. So Steve Bannon's there saying, something else is going on here. So I don't know. I don't know, because I'm not an FBI agent. I don't got a badge. I'm not a law enforcement guy. I'm not a lawyer. I am here to tell you that we need more evidence. Luckily, I'm heading to DC tomorrow. So maybe I'll pick up some. We're going to get a bunch of, get on the horn here and see who we can meet with. I want to get more evidence on this. I want to find out more, and I want to obviously bring you as much as we possibly know about what's going on here. But, like, just like with the Charlie Kirk murder, there's going to be a court date, and all this evidence is going to have to come out. And if they got the wrong guy, then it's the end of these institutions. That's just a matter of fact. And if they got the wrong guy, then they're going to have a chance to argue that in court. I didn't kill Charlie, or I didn't plant the bombs. Allegedly, the individual that was named in the Blaze reporting that planted the bomb, she was like, here's a video of me playing with puppies on the night of January 6th Eve. So we're going to be able to see. We're going to be able to see, hopefully, everything. That's what's required. My only encouragement to the people that I know very well inside of all of these agencies, on behalf of this audience, and I know that I'm efforting you in this, so I want to believe all of these things. I want to trust in all of them. I can only do that when I see the work. You have to show us the work. Enough clapping on the backs. You have to show us the work. A judge saw the work and signed off on this warrant and this raid. So now show the American people. Do it quickly. Do it now. Why not do it today? The faster that we do it, the faster that we put to rest all of the things that like confuse people and muddy the waters and make people go insane, frankly. And so that's what I'm here for. Anyway, on the whole, good news. We want to see updates. We want to see big things happen. But we also need to know. We want to see it. We want to trust, but verify. Trust, but verify. It's the only wise way to approach life. Especially when you're dealing with the FBI. No matter who's in charge, right? A hive of scum and villainy, the likes of which has never existed before and hopefully will never exist again. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we'll stay up to date on this. It's your boy Benny. Thank you for joining us for this, last 5 hours of lives on the Pipe Bomber. We're doing our best to cover it here in the studio. Merry Christmas. See ya.
truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. From the speeches to debates, Benny sharp like a blade. Cutting through the lies, watch the truth cascade. With the warrior's heart, this man never fades. You know it's prime time when Benny invades. From saving the nation to stories untold, the Benny Show's a storm, see the truth unfold. Stay in the loop, let freedom take hold. Salting all the libs, soul never sold. It's the Benny Show, where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. Liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Liberty to light. Bringing liberty to life. From the speeches to debates, Benny sharp like a blade. Cutting through the lies, watch the truth cascade. With the warrior's heart, this man never fades. You know it's prime time when Benny invades. From saving the nation to stories untold, the Benny Show's a storm, see the truth unfold. Stay in the loop, let freedom take hold. Salting all the libs, soul never sold. It's the Benny Show, where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light.